hosting the episode number 32 today. Topic is, do you generate desired profit in your food business? Just a little introduction on Happy Hotelier Club, which we call as HHC, conceptualized in January 2020. It's a brainchild of 3 passionate hoteliers with the purpose of bringing out hoteliers on a common forum for communication and exchange of ideas on industry-related issues, new trends and practices being followed to enhance the business and support each other. It's a perfect place for any hospitality person to come together, interact, share, rediscover his own self, and maybe also useful for sourcing the right vendors. This platform believes in empowering members and enhancing the opportunities. And our vision statement, to be the world's best and first platform for hoteliers to provide them happier ways of networking, learning, exchange of ideas, and empowerment. Ashish Gupta, he's a co-founder, he's a hotelier. Dheeraj Agarwal, strategist and IT expert, co-founder. Myself, Tarandeep, branding and PR expert, and an ex-hotelier. Our advisory board, Mr. Hemant Anand and Mr. Grish Pindra. Mr. Hemant Anand, he left the corporate world in 2007. He is the founder of Tree of Life Resorts and Hotels since 2010, which took birth since 2010, and they are just rocking till date and has a lot of huge expansion plans in the coming year. Mr. Bindra, with over 35 years of experience in travel, tourism and hospitality industry, he's currently the Vice President Operations of Surya, New Delhi, and is a passionate hotelier. So far, we've already finished 31 episodes. This is our 32nd on various topics of interest. We would just request a minute of yours to just go on the web, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn and like us. And also YouTube, you can see all our episodes on YouTube. Just search for Happy Hotelier Club and subscribe to watch all the episodes recording. What will you gain from episode 32? Most important, a different way to look at your hotel food business in a new light, reduce your expenses, what experts have done to reduce their costs, what technology can be employed, and a real-time turnaround story. Today's moderator, Ashish Gupta, a HACCP certified professional from Virginia, USA, is an established hotelier from the past 25 plus years. He has specialized in front end areas and overall operations of hotels. He has also been instrumental in launching a restaurant of his own. He has taken a lot of manpower hours in managing, planning operations, for example, maintenance, resource planning, procurement, and creation policies for various procedures like customer experience, along with sales and marketing measures with a proven track record of increasing the revenues and streaming the workflow. He has done setup and openings of 10 plus hotels across country and USA. Our esteemed speakers for the day, Manav Sharma, he is the director, Ambrosia Hospitality, Gaurav Bell, founder, Cool Chas, and Amit Bagga, CEO and co-founder of Daryaganj Hospitality. I'll just take a minute to share Manav Sharma's profile and likewise Gaurav's and Amit Bagga. Manav is a celebrated chef. He has spent 25 years in the hospitality in the business of food and gastronomy affair. He has worked as a senior chef with the Taj Group of Hotels and has been a restaurateur, chef, owner, and partner in more than 10 restaurants in Delhi. For the last 10 years, he's been a consultant providing restaurant consultancy and hospitality advisory services from conceptualizing to execution of F&B businesses. Till date, he's set up more than 100 F&B projects in India and abroad. And he's a recipient of many, many awards. His feedback and his comments and his sharings today will be really, really powerful. I would also take the privilege of introducing Gaurav Bell. He's our HHC member, and he's also a young entrepreneur, incidental hospitality person, I would say, not from the hospitality background, but he runs a chain of restaurants called Cool Chas. He's been working with corporate giants in the past, and with dedicated hard work and research, he has now got into the food business and launched Coolchas, which has a well-defined solution to help you achieve your dreams, and is also now looking at a franchising model to expand his chain. Welcome, Gaurav, and we would look forward to hearing from you today. Amit Bagga, our HSC member again, and he's CEO and co-founder of Daryaganj Hospitality, which owns Delhi's much loved and I think much written about restaurant, one of the restaurants, which is called Daryaganj, by the inventors of butter chicken and dal makhani brand. That's what their tagline is. From a single restaurant in April 2019, it has grown to about 4 outlets across top locations in Delhi NCR in just 1 year. Success comes to those who innovate. It's no different for Amit Bagga. I think he's very, very innovative and creative. His ventures are sprinkled with bespoke and original experiences and gifted with a creative bent of mind and astute eye for detail. He's really sailed very well through the pandemic. So a lot of sharings from Amit today as well.
Thank you, Taran. Thanks a ton for your wonderful introduction. And ladies and gentlemen, without taking much time, I would like to get onto the money right away. So there's one thing for sure, that food business is something that is very, very lucrative, and everybody has a dream to get onto it at whatever level. However, it definitely brings along a lot of challenges. So to start with, I would wish to know from Amit Bagga. Amitji, what have been the challenges that you have faced during the setups of your various outlets?
Hi, thank you for having me. So, as in challenges, as in you talking about pre-COVID challenges?
No, I mean COVID or not COVID. What have you faced while you set up the restaurant?
Mhm.
So what are the challenges, or what are the key points that you have to take care of?
Well, when I was starting Daryaganj, which was a new brand. So I'll talk to you about starting a new brand. When you already have an established brand, then you have lesser challenges.
Of course.
Replicating the same restaurant. When you're starting a completely new brand, it's the most important, which we all have heard a lot. Is the location, location, location. So location is very, very important. That in the sense that I mean, once the first one is very important, where that what kind of concept you're doing, what is your target clientele, and is it the right location for them? That is very, very important. There could be a very good concept, a very good restaurant you want to open, and if you open it in the wrong location, your concept would be good, but then it might not work because that clientele is not there. So it's very, very important to know, first of all, overall, what is the right concept for the right location. And you should also, like when I was conceptualizing the brand, I thought about what is going to be my number one, my food concept is I should be clear about my food concept. What is the food going to be like? What is going to be my concept of, the kind of people I'm going to serve? What is the service style? Then and then what is the look and feel of the restaurant? What is it? What am I targeting? What is my objective that I want to achieve from this brand? And that has to show, and that has to reflect in my interiors, my branding, everywhere. It has to reflect because a lot of times I've seen people who want to open new restaurant. They say, okay, let me go hire the best chef, let me go hire the best designer, let me go hire the best team, but still the restaurant doesn't work. Because sometimes what people forget is that you have to have a soul, or maybe you have to give a soul to the brand. It should not be done just to make money. It has to be a lot of passion which has to drive it, and the concept you want to tell, what you want to serve. It has to all work out as a work out together. So yeah, so that's one challenge, is the location. The right location to get into is a main one big challenge. And then when you're starting a new brand, then there is to find the right team, to hire the right people. You have to be very sure about that. That's also a challenge in India. Sometimes it's not easy to find the right team. At the in a standalone restaurant, you don't usually get the IHM students, or the hotel students, in hotel school students coming in the standalone restaurant. So you have to actually train the guys you get. So that's also one very big challenge, the staff staffing is one big challenge. And then, for a new restaurant, it could be a lot of other challenges as well. Setting up the supply chain, and then the consistency of the food. So all these are basic challenges which we all face.
Yes, very well said. So the passion-driven brand, that's something very niche, and everybody look forward to. Unless it is passion-driven, it really, mm, doesn't deliver, to that extent. I really get that. Gaurav, coming to you, so you are also a person who's not coming from a hospitality background, and you have set up your own outlet. So what challenges have you faced while setting up your place?
Yeah, thank you, Ashish. Thank you for the opportunity. I was not from the F&B background at all, and it was just food, being a little foodie, what drove me to set up a brand. The only one thing that we were clear when we started, कि हम copy नहीं करेंगे, so we were not bound to take pizza or the burgers of the they were already plentiful there. So we spent some time working out what is it that it is going to be very original. Incidentally, a guy was having kulcha at office, and we said, okay, we'll do kulcha. After that, I think everything was a challenge for us, because we were not from the. So we thought, okay, it'll take us maybe about 3 months to set up a concept revolving around kulcha. Believe you me, it took us about 2 years and 2 months to set up the entire first outlet. Challenges ranging from how to standardize, so we knew that, coming from a management background, that, things are to be standardized. So even sourcing is obviously another challenge. Whatever Amit mentioned, all those challenges were there. Apart from that, in addition, we had challenges driven by a QSR concept, quick service restaurant concept, that we had to standardize things. Then yes, related to quality, since I used to ask everybody, how is it that we are going to ensure quality. We got a quality in charge hired about 9 months before we opened our first outlet, and it took me about, I think, over a year that I understood, okay, this is how quality is going to get finally managed. So these were initial challenges. Even the development of our SOPs took a long while. And then the adherence of SOPs was another level of challenge, which we've been able to figure out absolutely now. For us, there were a lot of unknown areas, and my questions were to our suppliers, were to whomsoever I was meeting. Initially, we couldn't even find our the consultants in place. You will not believe, QSR as a concept in India is still at a very nascent stage, is what I would say. There aren't many brands who've come out as pure success stories in India per se when it comes to QSR, and hence we couldn't find appropriate consultants. After about a year, and after about meeting about 20 consultants, I said कि शायद India में मुझे मिल नहीं रहा है, and let me take the challenge on myself and do whatever best we could do. So we launched our first restaurant, believe you me, without a consultant. Okay, and we had no consultant on board. Today we certainly have Manav and his team there to help us out with the finer detailing that we need. We had, believe you me, we didn't have any experience with respect to what equipments are. So these were the challenges for somebody who's coming new into the business, who's not from the F&B background. And yes, so far the journey has been amazing for me. If you really ask me, the passion is what, as Amit said, is what drives you, and it has been driving us, and it is driving us further up. I hope I have answered.
That's really great, Gaurav. And what really inspires me is that hum copy nahi karenge. So you really went ahead and get yourself into the authenticity of the concept, and that's really great, actually.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I would like to add here, Ashish, neither in the country nor in the world anybody ever attempted a kulcha QSR. So you would find standalone kulcha outlets. Yes, there are plentiful, maybe every nook and corner, but nobody ever attempted to make it a QSR. Nobody ever attempted to standardize processes revolving around kulcha. So that credit we'll take proudly.
Well, yes, it definitely goes to you. And as you have been talking that you were not been from the background, and that has always added to your woes. So once your first outlet was set up and you are ready to roll, what have been the operational issues or challenges that you were facing?
Okay, so I'll tell you, coming from a management background and an experience of over 15 years, when we set up our first outlet, we were certainly clear about that. Yes, there are going to be staffing issues, there are going to be standardization issues, there are going to be quality issues, and hence those 2 years were spent doing that. With God's grace, we didn't have many challenges when we opened our first outlet. All the challenges were largely dealt with before we opened our first outlet, and hence we had to so a lot of people wouldn't do an extra staffing while they are opening the first outlet. We did go ahead and do that little extra staffing for the critical team members, so that for some reason, if one is unwell or one has to leave in between, we are not stressed out. So these were the things that we had taken care of. I guess maybe we were from a management background, and that helped us in a big way. But yes, after the operations were launched, one of the bigger issues that we were dealing with was the menu development. So what we started with, I think, was the best. And while we were on our journey, we were told by many customers, okay, कि अगर ये भी होता अच्छा होता, and we kept adding it on. So you will not believe the initial menu that we had, and the biggest menu that we had maybe was 3 times what the initial menu was. And today we say कि नहीं, वो हमें initial menu ही continue करना चाहिए था. So these were our challenges, since we were not from the industry. I guess there it was a little bit of an exploration as well. And yeah, so these were and yes, there was another challenge with respect to location. We were not from the industry, तो हमारे को कोई initially पूछ ही नहीं रहा था कि भाई तुम कौन थे, तुम्हें क्यों अच्छी location दे. But today, with God's grace, we've been able to get into properties like Ambience Mall Gurgaon. We've into DLF as well, and this is like pure hard work of over 5 years now, that we've been able to enter at premium property. So location certainly matters big time. As Amit also mentioned, these were our many challenges. We thought, we will start breaking even very soon, but that didn't happen as well. So your financial cash flow management is another level of ball game which you have to address. At times, even if you address, it may get a little longer before you are able to break even.
Right, that's really well said, Gaurav. We also have Manav here, who has set up more than 100 outlets and help them survive, and help them operate. So Manav, would you like to add something to this?
No, I think Amit and Gaurav have really, shared their journey and their story, and kind of sums up, what one what it would look like for someone who's new to enter the food business space. Couple of things, if I can add to this, is at a very nascent stage, when you're looking to start a food business, you look at your variable costs and fixed costs. Try to get the break-even point, average per cover, how many covers you're looking, and from there, creating the concept. And then based on the concept, looking for locations. What happens is, most of the time, people end up either taking up a restaurant which is already existing. It is already in a certain location. And then, they've never done the back-end calculation that if that restaurant did not work on that location, what is it that you are going to be doing differently for the restaurant to work, right? So right now, in the current scenario, I see a lot of these restaurants changing hands, and and they end up doing exactly the same things. And so the first question I asked them was, what are you going to be doing differently? I said, well, so if the, so coming back to the point, yeah, like, what is it? So creating the menu and the concept, picking the location based on the concept. So that is something which is very key. And rightly mentioned by Amit, the team is very critical, to deliver that experience or whatever, which is the brand promise. So one thing which I would want, I would just suggest people entering into the food business is to create kind of a concept note, like, this is what we're going to do. Because what happens is, during the journey of creation, you digress and you reach a point, right? And in this business, you reach points where there are no turnarounds. So because the design has already been done, now the furniture has come like this, the flooring has already happened like this, but somebody said, the lighting should be like this. So you keep referring back to the checkpoint as what you started off as. So that is always a good place to start.
Great. So that's really very useful insight from Manav. And one thing we have observed that food business is something that is ever evolving. So every second day we see something new coming up. The entire concept is evolving. The way we do this business is evolving. The way we set up the restaurants is evolving. And the entire happening of COVID added to it. So probably, and how we operate this business 2 years back and how we do now. We would like to hear from Amit. COVID era, but you have also done some new openings while most of the restaurants were falling apart.
So you would sorry. So you wanted to know what exactly we did in the last few years during foundation of this. The thought I had. I was start which said that the customers don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it. I mean, there's a there should be a reason. Like if I want to if I'm trying to solve a missing thing in the market or solve a problem, I want to do something which is interesting, best service. That doesn't is not good enough. It has to be something. So and basically we wanted to innovate. I wanted to make sure that whatever, same thing like what Gaurav said, my thought was everyone is doing the same thing. I want to do something different, but I wanted to do something different with what people are not doing right. Like for example, North Indian cuisine segment, it's the biggest segment in the market. The maximum restaurants are North Indian restaurants. And everyone said, why are you getting into such a competitive segment? I said, it's not competitive for me because I feel maximum 99% of the operators are not giving the kind of quality food I want to give. So I'm only competing with 1%. I'm not competing with 99% of the operators. So, and then the idea was to innovate, to do different things. So sometimes you have to unlearn things. I realized people were doing a lot of modern fusion, but they were not giving the classics in the proper way. The classics were not being put across in the right way. So for me, it was actually a different challenge, and I mean, it was a different thing which I did by going back to the classics and serving that food. In fact, a few things we did before even COVID happened were very relevant in the future. Like when I was developing the restaurant design concept, I wanted to actually get maximized covers and I wanted to give some privacy to the guest. So I created sections. I created partitions between my restaurant sections. That was a thought which I had before even COVID started. It became more relevant after COVID that people wanted to have partitions between the tables, which I already had done. Then I had a hand sanitizer in my restaurant before everyone had a meal being served before even COVID. I mean, no one had even done that, but we were already doing it. So I mean, I wanted, and then there was there's a soft mystery box which we give after the meal has been completed, which was people earlier used to have these plates where they used to put soft and mystery and they put their hands into it. I thought it's not hygienic, so I developed individual boxes. Again, that became more also relevant in this COVID times. So I mean, the idea has always been innovate in not in every way what we can, from the way we serve things, the way we package things, even the way we run our restaurant. Even the menu has to be there has to be innovation in the menu also. Like like Manav and we had a discussion that he's been working with us on doing the menu engineering. So have to be innovative in what kind of dishes to keep in the menu. And then so the main things which we did differently in the past few years is, number one, we tried to look at our monthly EBITDA, monthly expenses sheet, So we decided, realize, okay, these are the fixed expenses, these are the variable expenses. Variable expenses are the expenses which happen only when the sale happens. But the fixed expenses happen regardless of any sale happening. So the first thought was, how do I convert my fixed expenses into variable expenses? So that first we went, that's why, and most of the fixed expenses were your expenses like your rental. So we went to the landlords, we got the deal to tell them to do a revenue sharing. So it became a variable expense from a fixed expense. Then there was an expense which was the manpower cost. So we planned smartly, and I told my team, okay, let's target, say we have a salary of, so we have a sale of 100, let's target our salaries to be within 15% or 20, and started off with 20, then came down to 15. I said, you keep the salaries within 20%. So if the sale doesn't happen and the salary it has to be kept within 20, then what happens is the shifts, if someone is working 6 days a week, he works 3 days a week or 4 days a week. But ultimately, the result has to be backward, that you have to control it to be below 15 or 20%. So that helped in the initial months to keep the cost low, so that we don't want to have. So I didn't want to remove anyone from my team. So I told them, you all will work, but then your days or your time will be according to the sales happening. We will not want to have a fixed expense there. That helped. So first thought, this is one thought which helped, for converting your fixed expense into variable expenses. So you're not bearing any expenses without, without the sales coming in. And then second was again to do, so I never had thought of delivery as a concept. It was a casual dining restaurant we opened. I changed my plan, I started working on a concept. It's called the 5 senses delivery, which we have discussed before. Basically, I developed a new concept of delivery, established it well. The PR went well because of the concept being different. Then it picked up. So we, almost 40% of our revenue started coming from delivery then in the beginning, which was a big help, so different one thing was adding new revenue earnings, sources like the delivery, and we also did a small bit of catering as well. So that helped. And then innovating in the processes, like I said, we also looked at our inventory management, software. We looked at what are how do we reduce our cost of goods sold by reducing the menu. We made a menu half. We made from the 50 dishes, we made a 25 dish menu. So that to keep the costs in control there also for a certain period of time till things got better. And then we came back to a full menu. That was also another thing we did. So these are the main few things which I can, tell you that these things we did try to do differently to survive in that pandemic. And then, once we got a very good response, we had the confidence to actually go and sign a restaurant. Even in the COVID times, we were doing a virtual signing of the restaurant. We don't even go to sign physically.
Well, that's really great insight, and I'm sure this can be really very helpful for anybody who is looking to get into the business at this point in time. Coming back to Gaurav. So Gaurav, you have been a perfect case, so who has got into the industry without having a background, and then you set up a thing, and then you struggled with it, and then you did something new to get out of those challenges, achieved a fair good success, and then eventually multiplied your outlets. So I really wanted to listen your journey, how it really happened, what did you do to create this turnaround. I'm sure because this story will benefit many other restaurant business owners.
Yeah, absolutely, Ashish. So I guess passion takes you everywhere, as Amit has also been mentioning. So just to quote few things, during the COVID period, while initially for, I guess, about 2 or 3 weeks, everybody thought, okay, another week and, everything would be over. And after about 4 or 5 weeks, everybody thought, no, boss, it's a long haul. And that is when we started, analyzing our, everything that we did over the last 2 years, which included, sales coming in from which items, menu engineering, even to the fact that, while we are going to reopen our outlet after the lockdown, no surface is going to be such that cannot be sanitized after each usage. And hence, doing up the walls than being plastered and painted. we did a stone finish to the wall. We looked at these little details. We made our outlets cashless, so there is no cash accepted at our outlets, considering that this is one of the biggest virus carrier per se. So these little details we went ahead with before we opened the outlet. And yes, menu engineering was big thing where Manav helped us big time. We were already, so as I said that over the last 2 years of our operations before COVID, our menu had grown big, and we were realizing, okay, boss, it has gone a little too big. We were trying to, we were already working that we'll bring it down, and I think Manav helped us trim it to a very large extent. I think it made a lot of sense. And such little detailings that we kept doing alongside, and especially during this period, that which we didn't look at as a challenge, but as an opportunity to rework our things around. And I guess we've done well during the period. We've opened new restaurants, and they're doing well. We've been able to get good locations which were never available, so to speak, because there was so much of rush pre-COVID. So these have been little developments at our end. I guess I've been able to answer your question.
So what has been those few bullet points that helped you turn around? Because what you created after being into business for 2 years, that is something much greater.
Yeah, so menu engineering at one point, and that leading to operational efficiencies, that further leading to better profits and return on investment. So even for example, now the kitchen area that we need versus what we required early, there is at least a 30% differential in that. The kitchen area that we need is 30% less. So your operational efficiencies have gone up big time, and these were achieved during the COVID period. Alongside Manav, we were constantly working pretty hard on efficiency part of operations. And yes, I guess we've pretty much now at a fair menu, or the operations part of it.
Great. So taking the cue forward from what Gaurav has done, so
Ashish, I just want to add, so Gaurav is being very modest, and thank you, Gaurav, for all the praise. Gaurav is not spilling the beans that how the turnaround has actually helped him expand, grow, and really reach the franchise model, which he's been, dreaming and wanting from the very start. So Gaurav, I'll say that for you,
Yeah, sure.
not been sharing. Right? So, but I do remember, a little incident during the conversations. It was very interesting, right? And so I said something to Gaurav, which is very radical to a lot of, which might sound a little radical. In fact, a lot radical to a lot of people who are not in the food business. That the number of dishes on the menu has nothing to do with the sale of the restaurant.
Yeah, I remember that, Manav.
Yeah. And while we were working on the menu, one incident I specifically remember is that we were having a conversation about there's some mutton dishes on the menu, and I suggested why don't you take them off? And he was looking at it back and forth, and he came back and said कि चलो निकाल के देखते हैं, वैसे मैंने देखा तो है, ज़्यादा तो नहीं बिकता, right? So he took a chance, and well, more than that, I think he trusted me. And that led to whatever he was looking for. And interestingly, the second level conversation was, okay, let's look at the chicken dishes also. And I was shocked. After a week, Gaurav was coming back and telling me, what more should we take off the menu? And I was like, wow, So
I remember that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We
I
have
was
always
doing
heard people asking for what else we can add to the menu.
Yeah, forever for my life, people invite me to their projects to add something to the menu. And here was Gaurav, who really got it. That he was asking me, in fact, and I told him, "Acha dal ke nahi hata di dal nahi chahiye." And I was like, "Acha, bas samajh aa gaya." And he just kept knocking off a lot of dishes on the menu, which was fabulous.
Yeah, that's right, Manav. And yes, I'm a keen observer, so whatever Manav was saying, I was registering it. and there used to be healthy arguments, healthy debates, or there used to be sessions, long sessions at times, and I think it has resulted big time in the overall concept to be improved. Thanks, Manav, for that. Absolutely.
Pleasure.
So one thing I want to create here for everybody is that whatever research that has gone into the turnaround of Gaurav's business, so Team HHC has taken it forward. And Team HHC has developed an entire web-based concept solution for any food business. And we guarantee that we can provide a turnaround. At this point, I would wish to invite our very esteemed member, Sudhir Arora. Sudhir ji, please come and introduce what we have done. We have created a concept called Kitchen Genie. Let us hear more from Chef Sudhir.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Ashish, for the privilege. So, Kitchen Genie, the journey of Kitchen Genie, as I know, it started with the meeting Gaurav and Manav. Gaurav was kind of contemplating his sustenance and obviously was worried about his profitability, and he had concerns. So that meeting got the ball rolling. And eventually from those meetings, Kitchen Genie has been born. So it is a platform where the data is shredded, chopped, diced, all sort of mincing is done to that data. And then they come to it's looked at from all different angles. And then the data is looked at into different ways of, contributing. One way is that you do a menu engineering, but then later what to do with that menu engineering or how to proceed and take out the work from there means a lot. Like Manav expressed to Gaurav, remove the mutton. So it was a very radical thought, of course, and I'm sure Gaurav would have resisted tooth and nail to that. But then when he realized that removing the mutton is a profitable solution, and they've got to that, and now Gaurav is very much into the thing, organically. That was very nice, organically. So that is very, very rare thing. So then the historical data is looked into it, the item-wise contribution, the sales mix, the profitability, gross margin of each product is looked into it, cost to sales ratios are looked into. And then a solution is made out of the things, what to keep, what not to keep, how to promote certain things, how does the menu should look like. So all these things come out. Not only that, the business model is vetted. The fixed expenses, the variable expenses, break-even points, what is the actual APC, what is the potential of that location. All those APCs are looked into. And then obviously the projected sales, depending on the APC and turnaround ratios of that place are looked into. So Kitchen Genie, basically, as KG we call that, it gives us a very web-based solution where, and it's a subscription model. That's the best part of it, actually. It gives answers to all the questions a restaurateur may have, and it will give you solutions which people would not usually give, or you would not usually have the answers to. So it's giving you a continuous and actionable information, as I would say, and it gives you actionable points and information where you would want to introduce in your operations, and then result them into a greater profitability. So that's what I think is Kitchen Genie is all about. Apart from that, the marketing, the menu design, the plans, how your food should look like, how you design your menus, how you name them, how you put the pricing on that, what is the font, all that also is covered in Kitchen Genie. So that's what I want to say about that.
Right. So, Chef, I would also like to know how this Kitchen Genie can help restaurant operators create a turnaround if they are not already in profits.
Is that for me?
Yes.
So menu engineering is a tool which a lot of people are aware. But what happens is once you do a menu engineering, you actually don't know what next to do. So what Manav and Gaurav did was, what Manav did with Gaurav's data was, he did menu engineering, and then he went a couple of steps further to understand how sales are affected, or how he can actually increase sales with reduction in the number of items being sold, or he can, how he can reduce the inventory, how he can reduce the cost of goods. So all those steps actually are actionable steps which people shy of doing. They may know menu engineering, the horses, the plow horses, the dogs, the stars, but what to do with them, or how to convert a plow horse into a star, that is what actually Kitchen Genie would do.
That's great. So is it only about menu engineering, or we do also take up anything else with this?
No, like I said, menu engineering is a big part of the whole process, but the menu design, how you write your menus, what font, what color, placement of your menu designs, a lot of things are part of the whole process. So it's kind of increasing your profitability, not only by selling more, but also by reducing your waste, cutting wastages, spoilages, inventory controls, things like that.
Great. So ladies and gentlemen, you can log on to our Kitchen Genie website. Website link is in the chat now. And you can also contact us for any questions or queries. I would wish to throw this session open to any participant who would have any question. So anybody has a question can please raise a digital hand.
So Sachin Thakur, is he here? He had a question. He had raised his hand.
Yeah, Sachinji, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Yeah, he's there. Sachin, can you hear us?
Okay.
I don't think Sachin, there he is. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Sir, hello?
Yes, Sachin, go ahead.
Here, I mean, pre-COVID times, we really didn't have any challenge allocating any budget to marketing our places. But post-COVID, how do we, I mean, what kind of percentage should we allocate to the marketing? And these days, we see a lot of influencers and bloggers, promoting the restaurants and bars. So is it really helpful? One should go for it.
Okay, so let me take that on, and you can, and Gaurav and Amit can share what they do for marketing, and there is no thumb rule, there is no rule as such. But Sachin, some level of marketing has to be done. Now it could be subtle, it could be online, whatever way. But every brand has to engage in some level of marketing. And you can always take a budget which you can sustain, rather than, biting more than you can chew, maybe for a delivery outlet, Zomato is saying, 50,000 or 1 lakh rupees per month to spend. Don't do that. I mean, do a 10,000 rupees, do a 15,000 rupees, do something that you can sustain over a long period of time. That will give you a result, because marketing results do not happen overnight. They take some time. The minimum visibility that you should look at is at least a quarter.
And moreover, marketing is something that what marketing is not really important, why marketing is important. So you really have to get into the nerve of why you want to do that activity or why not, in fact. So analyze for yourself what you are trying to achieve by whatever activity, and that will define your budget. And that has nothing to do with the sales. Sales will eventually come in. Do what is required to do to achieve what you want to achieve.
I'll say one thing here. Sachin, what you said was about bloggers and influencers. You were asking about that, whether that is effective or not. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So yes, it is. So what we do as a strategy in our restaurant is that we have a list of influencers who have, say, maybe more than 100,000 followers, or have the right followers, and we invite them to come to our restaurant, and we have a regularly we have these people coming in, and we request them to try our food and experience the whole thing and post on their Insta profiles, on their stories and posts. So obviously, when they have, even if they have a 10% reach out of their number of followers, and usually it's a 5 to 10% people do watch any of the posts or the stories. So if you're catering, if you're showing your product to 5,000, 10,000 eyeballs with one guy, one influencer who has 100,000 followers, that's a very good deal, I feel, because so that's so regular influencer activity is good. We don't pay them anything separately for that. If we just tell them to come and experience the content, a lot of people are happy to do that, who don't charge for this. So that's a very good, effective way of getting results, where you're not putting your cash flow out, and you guys just offering a complimentary meal or something, and we tell them to just come and post about us if you like about us. So I think it works for that kind of a model.
Thanks, Amit.
Yeah,
I guess Mr. Bindra is trying to ask something.
Yeah, well, I've heard Gaurav, Manav, Chef Sudhir, and Amit. I think it's been a wonderful session. And I think Sachin comes from the same family as I do, because we work together as colleagues at the Surya. And what is bothering us maximum today is marketing. So I thought, let me just put this across to this elite panel and get some input from them. Because if I try and make a booking at a standalone restaurant today, you can't get space. But when it comes to hotels, it's, I've just had lunch at Sampan, which is our Chinese Pan Asian restaurant, and there were only about 40 covers, 35 covers the whole afternoon. So I was just trying to figure out, is there anything particular that we need to focus on to get some footfalls into the hotels? Because I know there's a scare that, the taxes are high and this is high, but it amazes me, even after being in the business for 40 years, that. So I thought maybe I should just pick Gaurav's or Manav's brain to get some sort of inputs that I know you guys are doing exceptionally well. Maybe, sometimes one sleeps over things which actually, which hit you on your face. So I thought maybe I'd get some inputs from you guys as to how we can get footfalls into our outlets or into the hotels. Anything particular that you can think of that one can sort of, I know exactly where Sachin is
I'd
coming
like to
from,
answer
so that,
this.
Yeah.
I'd like to answer this. In fact, I was thinking on the same thought, that I was actually talking to a lot of hotel owners, and that what if I come and operate one of the restaurants in your hotels, because I feel that somehow maybe it's something which I'll discuss with you offline. I'll give you some of my detailed inputs on that. But yes, I feel that sometimes that a standalone brand sometimes has created some kind of a buzz around it, which usually gets the gets the crowd in. And also, one thing usually works is that if you're in a hub, in a market, in a mall where there are 20 restaurants, people want to go to a destination where they have many outlets or many options. For a 5-star hotel, there might be an individual restaurant especially will come for. And so that sometimes is a little bit of a hesitation. There's usually other places like where there's already footfalls, like we are in a high street, like a Connaught Place, we are in malls. There's already a lot of footfall. People actually come thinking we'll just go there and we'll figure out where we want to eat. That also happens. So that's one of the things. But there has to be a pull factor, which I feel a lot of brands have to create that pull factor in the restaurants, have to create a pull factor in their brands, and make it more, make it something. Also, the perception, like you said, perception of the people is that when we go there, we have to be very formally dressed, or it's going to be very expensive. Make it more of an approachable concept to everyone. That would help, I feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
I
here
think
I
Amit,
can
you've
just
actually
add
hit
one
the.
point, that maybe an engagement with the audience, and today only social media can engage with your audience. So basically you need to engage with them in such a way invited in, and it's more like a friendly place to be in. That person.
Karan, you are not audible. Sorry. Okay, we'll take Taran's input when she's back and she's audible. We can take Mr. Pradeep Malhotra's question in the meantime.
So okay, let me answer. I'm a sales and marketing guy, Girish sir, and we proudly say, okay, the first restaurant that we opened with no experience at all, हमने 1300 से ज्यादा बिल काटे थे. और सेकंड जब हमने खोला था तो उसी तरीके का रश था. जब थर्ड खोला था एम्बियंस मॉल में तो 900 प्लस बिल काटे थे, एंड मानव इज अ विटनेस टू दैट. And we talked to Ambience ke we would want to do something similar, and this was done on a weekday at Ambience. Okay, so Ambience is a weekend mall, and we spoke to them that okay, we will do something similar on a weekend, and they said ke hum nahi handle kar payenge, please mat karna. So end of the day, when we did our first outlet, we sounded the management of the property ke rush hone wala hai yahan pe 2 din baad. So they asked us, what kind of a footfall are you expecting? Since it was happening for the first time for us, as far as restaurant industry was concerned, you will laugh over my answer, but that is how I told them. मैंने बोला, we are expecting anywhere between 400 से 500 जनों की footfall, 700 भी हो सकती है और शायद 1000 भी हो जाए. And believe you me, it crossed 1000. We had prepared ourselves for about 1200, and 90% of our food that we had planned got consumed. So all that I wish to say is, when you think of delivering something, you have to work at times backward, and it will happen. So while everybody was giving some suggestions, I was thinking, okay, what could be an answer for Mr. Bindra for a hotel? So maybe there, and I would agree with what even Amit said, that yes, at times there are brands like, for example, even Daryaganj, who could take over a restaurant in a hotel, and that would carry a pull factor. It's a great idea. And maybe there could be some events also alongside. If there is an existing restaurant, there are few hotels, those who've developed a character out of their restaurant, and it works fantabulously well. So these are the checkpoints, people, those who've done it well as restaurants in 5 stars, and how they've done it. So maybe at times they have a product alongside which they create a hype, or they do it very differently, or they do it very nicely, and that particular product or that restaurant's name or something similar which carries a long impression on somebody's mind, or it remains on top of the head, which can carry your restaurant doing amazingly well than the others, is briefly that I could say, coming from a sales and marketing background purely. And yes, influencers, and then the role of the influencers come, because once you've created that little aura of the restaurant or of the product or the way you serve, there is some character which is different and which is welcoming or something differently, and then the influencers would do the remaining trick, is how I would want to answer. And I would be more than happy to come over to meet you, sir, and maybe throw some ideas looking at how the restaurant is currently.
We are already meeting, Gaurav. I have taken the cue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I never thought I could give some inputs. I come from a sales and marketing background purely, and full of ideas always.
Yeah, we will together.
Same, we are happy to also join it.
Super, super good.
Idea, and it's bang on. And some people have done it. What Amit was saying.
I'll also join in.
Lovely.
Good. You guys are welcome anytime. It's always a pleasure to have you guys over. But let me tell you one thing.
The merrier.
Gaurav and Amit, where I was coming from is that the same restaurant, Sampan, did at an average 70 to 90 covers an evening. But post-COVID, I mean, it's dropped down to 25 to 30, maybe a day it goes to 60. So that is what my concern was. But when I go outside and step out, it's
yeah, touch wood, you're very right. These standalone restaurants are always
I can get place here.
I mean, you're right. Standalone restaurants are overbooked these days.
So that is what my
So the local store marketing has to be
anyway.
enhanced.
I think
I mean, happy to discuss this in detail. I'll tell you a few insights.
Super. So good, great. So I'll invite you guys for a drink, and that's the best way of taking this catch up soon and take this
Yeah.
forward. Thanks a lot for all your inputs, here, guys. Thank you.
Most welcome, sir. Anytime.
So let us hear from Ravi Tej here. Ravi Tej, you can ask your question, please.
Hi, thanks for all the inputs, really interesting. I have a question regarding technology. How have you used technology in your companies? I mean, your Daryaganj, the whole concept is
Yes.
traditional, but there is tech somewhere. So how do you use it? If you could
Right.
share, please.
In fact, that's what I realized was when 1.5 years back, when the first lockdown happened, that the technology is the only way to go from there. That is the way the whole world was surviving that time. So I put a lot of technology into the business. Like, first was to data analytics, analyzing data from whatever, from a post, from the menu, like, and even like looking at, what are the hours which have the maximum sales, which don't have the sales, deciding the shifts accordingly. But and also that, and obviously that time when we were starting off, we had QR code menus. We had made menus with the QR code. Anyone enters a restaurant, they can have a touchless experience. They can just scan. But these were things which everyone was doing. But we also looked at a lot of other things where we could get technology into it, like in the to how to manage processes. There's a company called Fame Pilot. So we have a tracking of our customer reviews. It aggregates all my reviews all over different platforms, all over, and gets them into one place. Then we do a sentiment analysis. Who's talking what is the common word everyone is talking about? So a lot of data we analyze for the feedback. The biggest thing is when you can actually go and analyze data, what the customers are saying. Half of your problems will be solved if you just, a lot of free advice comes in from them. If you can just pick up the right advice and improve yourself. So one thing was that we were trying to listen to our customer very, very, very carefully what they are saying. So it helped and for that we could not look at thousands of reviews every day. So this helped the data analytics of sentiment analysis of the reviews. Plus then and then we did a lot of retargeting of our customers. So we took up all the data what we had of their birthdays, anniversaries, what are the frequent times they come in. We made campaigns around it. There's a technology we again got outsourced. It's called Zeno. They had a technology of retargeting customers. We took that technology also. That helped us getting amazing results. Whatever we were SMSs or whatever email newsletters we were sending were getting us very good response. So starting from the processes to the way we were operating the restaurant to getting the customers back, everywhere try to deploy technology wherever we can. And in the future, in fact, I'm even doing R&D on even robotic kitchens. Maybe one process of the kitchen could be a robotic, equipment, which we are doing R&D on.
Great. And just one more follow-up question with regards to like restaurants, especially since you're into restaurants.
Yeah.
With regards to reservations, how many actually reservations do you have of your total inventory before you start service, or let's say a day? And do they actually turn up, or is it a high no-show percentage?
So interesting thing which you said, because that's a big problem here. So we as a brand, when we started off, we were taking reservations in the beginning, but there were frequent cancellations. In India, people don't take the reservations very seriously. So, and touchwood, we were a 60-cover restaurant. We were doing 250 covers a day. And average is 4 turnarounds we were doing in that restaurant. Average on a weekend was 6, weekday was 3. So we realized if we start booking our tables, we will lose out a lot on our business. So we stopped taking any reservations. We made it first come, first serve. Because we were actually smaller restaurants. If we had a bigger restaurant, which maybe 200-seater, we would still want to block some seats for reservations. It's wise for anyone to have, at least for a bigger restaurant, to block some seats for regular reservations coming in. And in India, the problem is that there's no all these aggregator platforms. They are more of a discounting platform, not reservation platform. People don't go there for reservation. They go only for discounting. So we don't. There's no concept or there's no culture of proper reservations in India as such. At least it is there only for the fine dining restaurants, at least not for our category of casual dining restaurants. So we are more of a footfall, walk-in and a footfall-driven business also. And whenever any guest calls us, we tell them, please, you can come over, but we cannot guarantee your table, but they might be at certain time you have to wait for the tables. So yes, for a casual dining, it doesn't make sense, but for fine dining and a bigger capacity restaurant, it makes sense to have reservations.
Yeah, Ravi, and just to add to that, what restaurants will what I've started doing for restaurants is a policy. When people ask for reservations, we'll tell them our peak times and our lean times. So then they have the choice. So that they know that this is a peak time and when they will come, they will have to wait. So we give them some windows where we know for sure that they will not have to wait.
One more thing people are doing is sorry to cut here. One more thing people are doing, they asking for upfront some advance. It's non-refundable also. People do that as well.
Yeah, but more than that, as a policy, going forward for restaurants, this is what I've trained the teams in, that you know your peak times and lean times. So make sure that you communicate that to the customer, so he has a choice. That kind of solves most of the problem.
Right. Thanks. There are no other hands, so I just want to take one more question if it's possible. It's great.
So I think we should first give
Pradeep,
chance
and
to
then we will
Pradeep
come
ji.
back to you, Ravi.
Okay, go ahead.
Pradeep ji, you may ask your question.
Yes, good evening and thank you very much to all the speakers. Really a lot of food for thought, insights. But before I ask my question, I'd like to share something with Mr. Bindra, that Sampan has one of the finest and the best Chinese cuisine in the city. And when I was the regional head of SOTC, we used to have our regular meetings there. And our clients, whether GIT or FIT, we used to take them there. And everybody had a wonderful experiences. So I'm sure that your friends in the tourism tour operators and time and AOTA members may be able also to assist you further to bring their groups to or make it a part of their itinerary, whether for the GIT or a VIP. Excellent.
Pradeep, thanks so much for that. I mean, I know that. I know a fair amount of our business came from inbound operators. Unfortunately, now there is no foreign travel coming in. So
focus on domestic, please.
So for 40% or 50% of the clientele that used to be in-house, I also know people who were staying in other hotels and would book. To stay.
Our corporate clients, we
absolutely
used to have a meeting with them over there and advise them to be. Yes.
Just a matter of time, Girishji, just a matter of time.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Pradeep, do you have a question?
Yes. Yeah. You see, so far what I have heard, I see that it's a very high investment endeavor. So my question is, what will be your suggestion or advice to the upcoming aspiring entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs, and I know some of the veterans who have passion to come into this food business, but probably may not have that kind of resources, whether to put up in DLF or whether to put in Ambience Mall or elsewhere, and particularly when they're coming from 2 or 3 tier towns and cities. So what do you guide them?
So this is a very relevant question, and, I hate to say this, but this business is one of the business which is the maximum, which is the least amount of success rate. We are currently operating in India at under 5% success rate in the restaurant industry. And this is across the board, whether it is QSRs, restaurants, cafes, specialty restaurants, cloud kitchens, all of them put together. It's a very scary situation if you really look at it. And then the idea of these kind of webinars is to, up that, right? And you rightly said, this is a very high investment business. So the first thing for people to start is to get the requisite knowledge. That is very important. For knowledge, you don't have to go to hotel management school. I mean, you can get somebody on board. That is something that the first thing that I would recommend, right? So restauranting for me is like a car. It's an automobile, and you have to have all the pieces in place for the car to function. You may spend less or more on it. That is debatable, but you have got to make sure that you have that component in for the automobile to function. So that is my take on this. I mean, there are 1,001 things one can say, but this is at the basic level. This is something which I would like to put on.
What is there is one or other ingredient is missing. If somebody has a space, they don't have funds. Somebody has funds, doesn't have a space or a technical know-how. And particularly now, in fact, today it was a great insight for me that how high-tech the food business has become now.
Yeah.
So,
So coming back to what Amit actually started the conversation from, it's coming back to the first question, that it is not that you have the location, you don't have the funds. You have the funds, but it is not for that location. So first, based on the funds and your exposure, create a concept. Based on that concept, find the location. That will work well for you.
fantastic.
I mean, just the thing is, there should be a why. Why, this customer should come to you, not just by saying that we are the best in everything. There should be a problem, or there should be something which you're solving, as in that's something which is not available in the market for the customer. And then, then everything flows out. From there, there has to be a strong concept and a soul to the brand from there, from the start.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thanks. Ravi, you are on. We have no more questions.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to get your esteemed panels on variable pricing. Have you guys considered doing variable pricing for like different days, different meal periods for the same food, like it's done in rooms, for example?
So I have done this in the past, and that actually takes on very many aspects. Not, it cannot be one standard size fitting all. So that's a very, varied thing, and a lot of factors have to be taken into it. In certain cases, it can be done. Certain cases might not, especially it becomes an issue when it comes to hotels, because we have long staying guests there. So, it depends on very many calculations, and I'm sure Manav can add to it.
Yeah. So Ravi, a few restaurant brands have done this successfully, especially which are buffet restaurants, like, the barbecue types and, all of them. So because they have a fixed product. See, for a customer who in an a la carte situation, we really don't know what he's going to eat, right? So we can't do a variable pricing of the product. Dal makhani Saturday ko hamari 220 की है और Monday को 180 की, it won't work, right? But for a fixed price menu, where you have the entire menu given as a single product at a set price, like a room, that kind of a discounting, that kind of a variable pricing will work.
Very right, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, great, because most of the industries around us are doing it. PVR does it, Uber does it. So delivery guys do it for that. So I was just thinking just out of the box, but
It's very good
for the input.
Ravi. It's very good for Ravi, because I had also done a research on 2-3 years back on this, how we could have a differential pricing on this. But ultimately it all comes down to saying, okay, we're charging 100 on this day. This day will be 20% discount, 30% discount. Then this whole discounting thing comes in. That's not what you want to present your brand as. That's.
Yeah. And few of the bars have done it very successfully. The bar exchange concept.
Happy hour, people do happy hours on the lean times. There's also like a variable pricing in a way.
Something very interesting to ponder on.
So we did, Manav, I hope you remember, we did dynamic pricing for Bluebirdy as well. We used to do, a time slot discounting on the entire bill. That's one way of doing it, and that was successful. So that was a case study. We had good business for dinner, but lunches were really lean. So we did that, the timeline based discounting system. 12 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and that kind of gradually declining discount. And discount would eventually end at 6 p.m.
Yeah,
so
so
like that,
for a bar, for a specialty restaurant,
yeah, that's what I mean. It's
for
very,
a QSR,
very
for example, it won't work.
Yeah.
So it's a different story there. So you have to pick and choose. It cannot be across the industry.
Thank you.
So we have a question from Gurbani. Gurbani, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, this is Vinayak here. Unfortunately, I'm driving and I'm using my wife's phone. This is Vinayak. I head the sales and marketing for the Surya New Delhi. Good evening, friends.
Good evening. Vinayak, can you park your car?
I parked my car. That's why I'm asking you a question. Okay.
Responsible for you.
Yo, so my question with the distinguished members is there a necessary to have a separate page for your restaurant if you already have a page for the hotel? Will that actually helps? Need your opinion and thoughts.
Absolutely. And this is one thing which I just wanted to say when Girish ji asked, So a restaurant in a hotel has to be treated as a separate entity and a separate brand. That is something which is very, very critical. And this is, I think, something which most of the hotels have not been doing. This is which I've seen of the hotels that I have recently interacted with.
Rightly said, Manavji. And,
Yes, I totally agree.
So I have an input here. I feel it is very, very imperative if you really want a character and an image of your sub-brand in the form of restaurants separately. A great example is Great Kebab Factory. They've been able to do a great job in terms of creating a niche for themselves within and without, both sides, within Radisson and without Radisson. So that's a brand in itself. So I think an identity of its own minus the hotel page is also very important. But there you have to pick and choose which sub-brand, which restaurant you want to really create an identity. So if it is, for example, some pan, and you want to create an identity, I think it should stand on its own. So there the engagements have to be designed and strategized in such a way that the audience and the local community also, they start engaging with you and create a brand loyalty. Because end of the day, the F&B is only endorsed by maybe 20 to within 20 kilometers. So is my audience knowing about it, or it's just a set of people knowing about it, which is a direct database which I have? What is that I'm doing to create more audience in the vicinity? Those questions have to be answered and tackled. So once we have a page and we have a page following, we design promotions, we do it in that community, in that locality with lead generation or whatever. I think this community will grow and the brand will stand on its own. So I think these are few ways of handling.
And just to add to that, Taran, you can't do it for all the F&B brands in a hotel, right?
But that's what I'm saying. You need to, that's what I just said, that, you need to create a character for A, B, C, so one of the brands will only be, highlighted. You have to actually create a reasoning of making it stand out, so it can be only one or two, not many. I would say one restaurant which you want to really have a brand identity, plus the pastry shop can stand out also and become your local pastry shop, in the sense that if anything I want, I'm just hopping across to this pastry shop, because end of the day, you have much better offers in any hotel. After 8 o'clock, you get 50% discount. So what better than that? Your local bakery might not be giving you that. And then you are so sure on the quality, because it's coming from a brand credibility. So I think this needs to be defined not for every F&B, but then select ones only.
Yeah, and like Taran said, you can pick up two brands which are non-competing, because for a hotel, it is like if I promote the coffee shop, then the specialty restaurant gets left out, and if I pick up the Oriental restaurant, the Indian feels left out. So what you could do is you could pick up two non-competing spaces where the target audience is completely different. For example, people go to a pastry shop for a very different reason than they go to a restaurant. So you could pick up those two separately, and then take it to the next level, and and then pick the next brands.
So if I can just add something, to this, unfortunately I'm in a car now, but I'm not driving, so I'm sitting in the back. This what Taran and Manav have said is actually so right, because a restaurant is a restaurant, and that definitely needs its own web page and its own marketing. But if I go a little further into it, even a dish in that outlet is an influencer. When people are talking about it, in fact, I know when I travel and I go to Berlin or I go to London, I stay in a particular hotel. I've stayed there 40 times only because it has a great restaurant. I make it a point to go there and eat that particular dish. So I think these are all influences which actually not only look at walk-in, but even influence rest of your clients who come and stay in the hotel because of these little things. So these are things that are definitely worth looking at. And actually, this is a point that I think we must discuss once you're back here, because I think this is something that we must look at, and it's a teaching for all hoteliers and all outlets.
Absolutely.
Great. Ashish, do we have any other questions?
Well, I don't think so.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So with the note of thanks, I would wish to wrap it up. And just to let you know, guys, for any questions further, or if you want to know more about Kitchen Genie, please feel free to contact any one of us. Dheeraj, can we have contact details up, please?
Sure, sir.
Yeah. And before we end the session, if anybody wants to share what they got out of this webinar, that will be really great. And, help us create the future webinars.
Yeah, that would be a good idea, in terms of testimonials. Sure.
So anybody wants to share what they got out of this session?
In fact, there's a lot that we have got, but that needs to be articulated and immediately just giving any thought. In
So
fact,
you
I
can
write
just
a
say
note on
one
this.
thing, what you're
I'll
taking
say-
on, like what are you stealing? I'm asking, what are you stealing from this webinar to implement?
Yeah, maybe 1 point only. Maybe 1 point only.
Just one each.
But this is a business of a great passion. That is one thing which really comes out. And also innovation, creativity.
Absolutely.
I mean, so we have to evolve the market and we need to grow, because sustainability, it's also goes beyond that to thrivability.
Yep.
And one thing more which is very important I'd like to share, that we also must take care of, like we call it CSR, our responsibilities towards the society, because ultimately wherever we are in life, we are also because of the community and the society. And from there, where our customers come, right? I just share a small example of Hotel Pritham, a small hotel in Dadar in Bombay. Whatever food is there, they give it to an NGO in the evening. So it doesn't go waste, it's not thrown away, but the poor, hungry children, they are fed with that food. And that itself actually not only sends across a positive vibrations, but blessings from everybody, spiritually speaking also, that impacts your being and your business. So this is what I like to add to that. And I'm really delighted to be here. And thank you, HSC, and thank you, all of you. Fantastic sharing. And also the kind of sharing by the other participants also, actually, the group dynamics works. That is what I do.
Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, really, thank you for that. Yes, Ravi.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you all and say it was really a fantastic interaction. And my learning, I should tell you, is I'm highly inspired, and I'm looking forward very positively, especially Gaurav, who said, the thing he said about aaj itne ticket kaate, kal itne ticket kaate, next time itne ticket kaate. And even Amit, I mean, Manav said that it's a 5% survival rate, but here we have Gaurav who's opening one after the other, so it's obviously possible. And we have Amit also who's being, so I think if things are done the right way and with a little bit of study and of course passion and everything and all those factors, but a little bit of caution also, and you have to keep the factors which you all have said in mind. I think it can be a great success. It's not an industry that's all gloom and doom. There are so many success stories, and it's great to listen to you guys. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I would also like to add here to this point of yours, sir, that spend a little extra time on the planning stage than doing it post opening the restaurant. So we ended up spending over 2 years. Maybe that's not the right thumb rule or whichever way, but spend optimum time or sufficient time on the planning stage. That'll help you, maybe take care of the failures not happening at that rate, which generally are.
Spot on, Gaurav. I mean, the more efficiently you plan a place, plan a restaurant or a food business, the less are the chances for it, to go kaput. So, even efficient design takes time. I mean, Gaurav he's also an architect. He will vouch for this, that, take more time in designing the place, and then it takes hardly any time to construct it.
Absolutely. That's 100% correctly said.
Thank you, Ravi, for that.
All right, great. Thank you so much, guys. I really thank all the panelists to be here, and it was really very insightful that we discussed today. And Dheeraj, can we have our contact details up, please?
Already shared in chat box, sir.
Great. So anybody who wants to contact us back on any of the, any suggestions or any questions, you are most welcome. Thank you. Thank you for attending. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.